Let's talk about a fragrance from a different age, from a different era, from the era of macho fragrances. This is a fragrance that came to the market in 1988, so it's 35 years old, and it comes from a house that belonged to Jean-François Laporte, called Maitre Parfumeur et Gantier, and the fragrance is called Eau d'Iles. This is your regular, typical macho fragrance. If you loved that period, if you loved those type of fragrances, you're gonna definitely love this one. But comparing to those fragrances from other companies, from other houses, this one features a somewhat, let's say, lighter composition. Because we already know that macho fragrances came with huge compositions, featuring a lot of ingredients, a lot of chords, of notes inside their compositions, but it isn't the case for Eau d'Ile. We get in this one tarragon and myrrh in the top notes. We have incense, ylang ylang, labdanum, and coffee in the heart, and in the base we get vetiver, galbanum, and patchouli. And you might be tempted into believing that this fragrance is a gourmand fragrance, mainly because you have that coffee note inside. But it isn't. This is a very, very powerful, aromatic type of fragrance. It's actually quite visceral, it's very intrusive, it's very strong, and it actually does feel like a fragrance that only a macho would wear. On my skin, because that's where I wore this fragrance, and that's why I'm talking to you about it, the main ingredients or the main accords are the tarragon, the myrrh, the vetiver, and the galbanum. Everything else in the composition, inside the composition, does nothing than to assist these main accords. And on top of all is the tarragon, which is simply outstanding. If you love Mr. Burberry from Burberry, which is a designer fragrance, then you understand what tarragon is. If you use it in the kitchen, I don't know, in your food, then you also know what tarragon is. On my skin, the tarragon note is the strongest of them all, accompanied by the myrrh, the vetiver, and also by that galbanum note. Then from behind comes the incense, comes a very, very inoffensive and light coffee note, and also the patchouli and the labdanum. And these actually assist those aromatic green notes to tone down a bit, to make them a bit more wearable. Because in the beginning, this fragrance is actually quite unwearable. That's how strong it is, and that's how the tarragon comes out on your skin. It's very powerful, it's very green, it's very cringy, I would actually say, and screechy at the same time. A culprit for this feeling might be the fact that this one has a 80% alcohol infusion inside. Therefore, bear this in mind if you are interested in getting this fragrance and you don't know what to expect. You need to be very careful when you apply it. You need to be very careful in what area of your body you decide to apply it. I would highly recommend you to quite avoid the nose area, because this one is headache inducing. When it comes to performance, this is a very good performer. Longevity wise, I would get usually somewhere between 8 and 10 hours of longevity. Projection wise, it's very, very strong. In the first 2 hours at least, it's very strong. Afterwards, it tones down and becomes bearable. And the sillage is also very strong in the beginning, but it quickly fades down to something more moderate. Nonetheless, this is a very masculine type of fragrance. So be aware how much you decide to put on your skin or on your clothes. Be very careful where and when you decide to wear it. Again, you can wear it throughout the year. It's very, very versatile when it comes to scenarios, but you need to be very careful with the quantity that you apply, again, because this is very intrusive with the senses. This may offend a lot of people around you if you use a lot of juice when you decide to get out from the house, because they may not be accustomed to this type of fragrances, to fragrances coming from the macho period. Therefore, be very, very careful every single time that you decide to wear this one, and especially if you decide to wear it in public. When it comes to group ages, I would say this one is definitely a fragrance for a more mature audience. I do not see younger crowds wearing this one. I actually do not really believe that they might appreciate its beauty, but this does not mean that they cannot test it, at least if they want to, although I'm pretty sure they will not really appreciate it. A fragrance that's 35 years old, almost as old as me, which is quite curious. A fragrance coming from a totally different age, when fragrances were made very specific, very clear for the gender. You could not mistake this type of fragrance for something else, like nowadays. But for what it's worth, honestly, I do appreciate it. I'm a big fan of this type of fragrances. I had a lot of fragrances in my collection, especially designer fragrances that you can actually see reviewed on my channel. And I always appreciated the artistry and also appreciated the quality of the fragrances. I will, let's say, remind you, if you want, Van Cleef& Arpels Tsar, Yves Saint Laurent Kouros, who can forget about Kouros, what else? Because there are so many. Guy Laroche, Drakkar Noir, for example. This one is actually something in the veins of those fragrances, but without the huge note list inside the composition. And actually, it does stray away a bit in the sense that you have that tarragon note, which is so powerful. As always, I highly recommend you to test it. Do yourself a favor, if you can manage to get a small decant of this fragrance, because as I said, it's discontinued. I don't know if you can find it, probably on eBay or Amazon or I don't know, something like this. But buy a decant, wear it a couple of times, see how it performs, see if you like it, see if it's something for you, and only afterwards, if you have the opportunity, go ahead and pull the trigger and purchase a full bottle or not. That's on you, it's your money, you decide what to do with your money. From where I stand though, I highly recommend Eau de Iles from the house of Maitre Parfumeur at Gantier. I'm gonna stop here, as always my friends. Thank you for watching, see you in the next one. Be safe, be good, and remember, smell good, feel good. Peace.